Okay.
I got my thing over here.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors hereby enters into closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following. Section 2.23711, discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for the purpose or the disposition of publicly held property where a discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body. Rhino Public Safety Site, consultation with legal counsel and briefings from staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body and the consultation with the legal counsel employed or retained by public body regarding specific legal matters requiring provision of legal advice by such counsel. Mountain Valley Charitable Foundation, Charles Hill Middle School Athletic Fields. Discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, discipline, or resignation of specific officers, appointees, or employees of any public body. MBC Development Corporation. Help me.
It's like the Montgomery Blacksburg Christiansburg Development Corporation.
Yeah.
We make small loans to companies that are trying to start up.
Okay, and then 2 personnel. Was it something you want to add?
Yes, I was going to ask if we could add discussions on the old BHS site as well as the old BMS site.
Do you need a motion to add it?
Yeah, be a motion to accept.
Okay, you made the motion. But somebody?
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion.
Under 3.
Okay,
Okay.
under 3. Okay. Do you have a motion and
I
a second?
it, yeah.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
6
And that
ayes.
adds those 2 properties to our closed meeting under paragraph 3. We're in closed meeting. No, we need to vote for closed meeting.
Oh, yes.
Motion. Have a motion? Motion and a second?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Need a motion to go out of closed meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to go out of closed meeting. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Perkins?
For me?
Go out of closed meeting.
Sorry. Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Certification of closed meeting. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. Whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia, hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting, to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion conveying the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for certification. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye, for the time that I was there.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
The next 2 items on our agenda, one is our invocation. This is when we as a board observe a moment of silence to reflect on the business at hand, and then after we observe that moment of silence, we'll be led in the pledge by County Administrator Mr. Meadows.
Okay.
Let us pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Next item is presentations, recognitions, and awards. Well, our finance department. Finance Department Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. The Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting has been awarded to Montgomery County by the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada for its comprehensive annual financial report. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest, I repeat, the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting. This is Montgomery County's 27th award, and I feel that we need to come down and take a picture with Angie in presenting this award to her on behalf of her staff. Help. Might be different, but that's what you get when you go over to finance and try to get some money. Yeah. And it states, Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, presented to Montgomery County, Virginia. I got $3. I'm gonna get Angie to manage it for me. Bounce right up there. Okay, next on the agenda is Virginia Department of Transportation. Mr. David Clark will provide an update on road projects and issues in Montgomery County.
Good evening. Just a few updates on a couple of the maintenance items. Excuse me, maintenance items we've been working on, and a few of the construction projects as well. Probably the biggest construction one is the revenue sharing project we've been doing on Brush Creek Road. We did some last week getting the part between Pilot Road and Paw School Road done. Needs a little bit more work. They'll be out there tomorrow. I think some of the cool weather probably didn't help that last course we did, so I think we need to go over it again, probably one more time, maybe two more times. It was a little bit rainy and chilly last Thursday when we were doing it, and I think it probably needs another course. We're going to be doing that. Related to that, the crew that did that was made up of our guys and some hired equipment. Once they're done with that, they'll have a little bit of time left before there's another project they can do. And what I was going to do is start on a bit of a project that you've got in the 6-year plan. It's Yellow Sulphur Road. It's been in the plan for a long time. There's a section on the Blacksburg end from Janelle Road down to the bridge. It's only 0.2 of a mile. It's very wide. You don't need any grading work. There's no pipes. It's going to be very easy to do. So we thought we'd go ahead and do that. There's money on the project to do that. City and Church Road is the next one in the plan, and we are working on that, but that needs still a lot of design work and some, that would probably let the contract. So it needs a lot more grading work. This section of Yellow Sulphur doesn't, so it's all right with the board. I'm going to go ahead and do that section here while we can, get it done before there's cold weather, and that'll be one less part of that road that we have to do when we get to that project. Some of the other projects that are under construction, of course, the Southgate Interchange is a big project in the county. That's a contract value of $38 million. And it's still got several years to go, but as you go by, you can see the dirt flying and dust as they work on that bridge. And again, that's going to be a bridge over 460. We'll do away with the signal on the 460 part. There still will be signals on the Southgate side, and that's a diverging diamond interchange, which was shown at the public hearing. 603, the Aranto-Ellison connector route, we're calling that, the section of road that's now closed between exit 128 and Route 11. It's still progressing. It's got a July 2016 completion date, and the road is now closed and by contract can be for 300 days, a little less than a year, and they closed that in April, so they'll have to open that back up sometime in February probably. 773 is a bridge replacement in Fayette over Roanoke River, and it's completed. The new structure is open, and they're working on demolishing the old one. Another large project, unpaved road project, is Piney Woods Road, about 600. The last section of that, that's on your 6-year plan. That's under contract. It's a $2.5 million project. And it's got an August 2016 completion date, so they got about another year on that. It's quite a bit of a project, 2 miles of unpaved road. It's not usual that we do it in that largest section, but that will at least finish that one off. The rest are probably just some of the maintenance items. We've done a lot of paving. That's winding down. We still have some of the surface treatment to do. Actually, there's a little bit of plant mix and milling we're going to do on Route 11 from Den Hill Road. We're going about 1.5 miles north on that towards Shawsville. That might start this week. Also working on probably Den Hill Road from North Fork Road. We're doing that as a surface treatment. Also Yellow Sulphur Road from the Christiansburg side, the part that was already been paved, we're going to go over top of it because usually needs some more work. And there's a couple of the roads that we're going to finish up on the surface treatment schedule. As far as sort of ordinary maintenance items, I know we did some brush cutting. I don't know if we got the part, Mr. Brown, that you talked about. I know we did some on Centennial, but I don't know if they got the one you're at, but we'll make sure that they do. Besides that, it's just been a lot of, patching in front of these paving routes, some pipe replacements on Tyler, 460 Business, and on Merrimack. It was quite a big project on Merrimack Road, actually. We had about 120-foot total of pipes to replace on Merrimack Road, but generally just sort of ordinary maintenance, stuff like that. So, thank you, and I'll take any questions the board might have.
Questions of board members?
As I'm thrilled to hear that the Yellow Sulphur, you're going to be able to do 2/10. I know there are folks out there that would love to see it and I guess it's still the most traveled unpaved road in the county.
It is, yeah.
And so while it's not all 2/10, I'm thrilled to hear that that's going to get paved.
Yeah, we'll get it a little bit at a time, I guess.
Mr. King?
Just one thing, I want to tell you how much I appreciate VDOT going out and scraping old Sourwood.
Oh, that was good.
And I appreciate that. Have you got any idea what you're going to top it with, or are you going to top it?
No, it's going to just revert back to the way, as much as we can get it to the way it was before we tried this new product.
So you're going to take gravel out there?
Yeah, if we need some more stone out there, we'll put more stone out there.
Right.
If it needs any more. They went out and looked at it. There's some spots where it doesn't have any, but, you know, and that's going to be a continual process. That's going to be maintenance. We'll just have to, you know, several times a year we'll have to go and scrape it and put more stone on it, just like 120 other miles of road out in the county.
All right, I appreciate y'all
Thank
going
you.
out there.
Mr. Gray?
Yeah, one real simple little thing. Down my way, there's still some holes off to the sides of roads. They've worked up some down there, but there's still a few more that they didn't quite get to.
Where is that?
Right above Hale's Restaurant.
Okay, on 460 there?
Yeah, 460.
On 11, 460.
Well, on the right going down.
Yeah.
There's some stuff there.
It's a bad spot for those washouts on the...
Yeah, and you know, they come up and have to make the circle left-hand turn to get back to Hale's, and there's a lot of that goes on.
Okay.
So they could get that, would be good. Thank you.
Other questions or comments for Mr. Clark? David? Didn't see any more hands or indications, but thank you for coming and providing us with that report.
Thank you all very much.
Okay. Next item is public hearing. The following public hearing was advertised pursuant to law in the New River Valley section of the Roanoke Times on August 31st, 2015 and September 6, 2015. And that item is boundary line adjustment. Town of Christiansburg, county's intent to approve a proposed boundary line adjustment agreement between the county of Montgomery and the town of Christiansburg, and will therefore consider for the passage a resolution approving this agreement.
Yeah, I'll take that, Mr. Chair. If you look at under tab A, there's a proposed boundary adjustment agreement that's between the county and the town of Christiansburg. What this agreement is proposing to do is it's actually a reversal of boundary. Usually unincorporated county land is going into the town and becoming incorporated. In this case, approximately 12 acres of land in the town is actually going back into the county, unincorporated area of the county, so it's leaving the town. The main reason for this request is the biggest portion of this is a parcel that the county owns right there on Cinnabar, that the county's going to be proposing to build a new animal shelter. And so the problem was that parcel was, and it's in the town boundary, and then the property adjoining it behind it's actually in the county. And so that development would have been split between the town and county. So we wanted to get it into the county so that there would only be one jurisdiction that we'd have to go through from a regulatory standpoint. And the town was fine with that. The town also asked that we'd square up their boundary in the area along 460 bypass. And I think attached to the boundary agreement is the map that shows. And the one thing about these 12 acres, there's not one individual that lives anywhere in here, so they're not being moved out of the town into the county. And so it's a very simple boundary adjustment. The code requires a public hearing to be held before you can sign the agreement. The town, I believe, is having their public hearing next week, I think, before they can sign it. And then once the two parties agree and sign it, then we'll have to petition the court and get an order entered to actually move the property out of the town into the county. So it's a pretty simple one. There's no residents that are being affected. If you have any questions, I can answer them.
Any questions for Mr. McMahon? Well, at this point, we'll open it up for public comment. If it's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this public hearing, they can do so at this time, and they can need to approach the podium area, state the name and address, and they have 5 minutes, and direct all comments to the board. Well, we'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, if I just wanted to add one thing. There was a newspaper article about this a couple of days ago, and depending on how you read the article, it sounded like the county, or excuse me, the town was giving 12 acres of land to the county as part of this shelter. And I know I've heard a comment or two about land changing hand. There is no land changing hands in this agreement. This is basically to move the boundary line of the county-town boundary line, but no parcels of land are going to be exchanged. And I just wanted to make sure that was clear with everybody.
Right, and there's no loss of revenue since a government facility is going to be built on it.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And also the town still have water, sewer, so they're providing water to the town, to our facility that'll be built.
Okay.
And just one more thing, and we can move on. The next action will be a resolution will be at the board's next agenda on the 28th, asking you to approve the agreement and authorize staff to file a petition with circuit court, getting the court to authorize the land being moved out of the town into the county.
Well, you just answered that action from the public hearing.
We'll be back on the 28th.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing and move on. Next item is public address. Have one gentleman signed up to speak on the public address, and that's Mr. Taylor. You want to speak on proration of personal property tax.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Tay Taylor. I am a current resident of Montgomery County. I've been so my whole life, except when I was away at college. I also serve on the Economic Development Authority of Montgomery County, so I'm familiar with funding of projects and large amounts of income going in and out. And I'm also a candidate for the Commissioner of the Revenue's Office, and that's one reason I'm speaking tonight on this subject.
Could you state your address, sir?
I'm sorry,
Could
what?
you state your address, sir, for the record?
State my address?
Your address for the
address.
record.
Yes.
Oh.
Thank you.
It's 3109 Eagle Brook Road, Christiansburg, 24073. So I'm aware that the board has funded a commission, an area, a position in the Commissioner's office to help look at the personal property area proration. I guess I'm wondering why this person that was hired did not have a specialty in math with a statistics and probability background, since we're talking about a large amount of money right here, a large amount of income and figures. It really surprises me that did not happen, because when I look at this report that's going to be given tonight, we're talking $13 million. And it surprises me that whoever did the hiring on this did not hire a person that had that type of capability. So when I look at this possibility of getting proposed and opened up for public comment, I have to think of these figures that are on this report that look very positive for income. Doesn't mean the people in the county are in favor of it. So I also have to try to figure out, after looking at some of the videos of people who have spoken here, maybe the Roanoke City Treasurer, she said that they had 4 more employees in their office, and they still had a hard time with this area. getting it under control because it's very complicated. It's not like now where you buy a vehicle, they get the information from the DMV and you get a tax bill on it at the same time every year. So what could happen now is if this gets passed, someone could buy a vehicle, say January 5th, most people finance their vehicles. And they would get that finance bill that they're going to be paying on for 4 or 5 years in about 30 days, but they're also going to get this tax bill at about that time, and that could be $600 to $800 or whatever. And I don't think the majority of the citizens, even close to the majority of the citizens, have any idea about this. I've knocked on about 1,500 to 1,600 doors during my campaign, and only 7 people have heard about this. 7 were in favor of it. The whole other complete amount of people I've talked to were against it. I think the county board has done a great job with funding, spending money. I'm not asking you to do one thing or another. I'm just trying to present my view on the subject. I would like you to, if possible, to defer any more talk on this or until maybe a letter is mailed out to all Montgomery County citizens. It doesn't even have to be a letter. It could just be a short index card letting them know what's going on, because we're just now, in my opinion, coming out of a recession. And a lot of people, when they buy a vehicle, are not going to be aware of this. And I think it could hurt two large employers in our area, and that would be Duncan's and Sheeler Automotive. When I got this information from the finance department, I looked at it and I was trying to figure out some things. I heard my opponent speak on this once before and I was actually totally confused about it. So I thought I better get these figures. And I'm wondering, when I see the possible income coming in versus live non-proration versus test proration, it's like about $1.3 million more of income.
Yes, that's your 5 minutes.
Thank you all.
You're welcome. We don't address people that don't respond. Is there anyone else on the public addresses who'd like to address the board? If they do, they have 5 minutes, and you can come to the podium, state the name and address, and use their 5 minutes wisely. Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close the public address session and move on. The next item is addendum. Do we have an addendum, Mr. Meadows?
No, sir. We do
No
not this
addendum.
evening.
We'll move on to consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Okay, need a motion to go into work session. Be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors hereby enters into work session for the purpose of discussing the following: Commission of Revenue, proration of personal property tax, EDA refunding opportunity, county financial policies, county refunding opportunity, Veterans Monument Park, Town of Christiansburg. Need a motion to go into work session?
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to go into work session. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
We're in work session.
Mr. Chair, first item this evening is to hear from Ms. Royal on proration of personal property tax. Ellen, welcome.
How are you all? Thank you for having me here tonight. I guess the first thing I need to do is to address Mr. Taylor's statement that people would get a bill in immediately following a purchase in January. That's not true. The book stays as it is. It won't be processed until September. Then we will have supplementals and abatements from then until the next year starts, okay? So that's one of the, I just want to make that very clear. I also want to make it clear that I do not set tax rates or raise and lower taxes. That is not my job. My job is to help you find money. Okay. In April, the end of April, I hired a young lady who has done a wonderful job. She did not have to have statistical background. All she had to do was enter from the DMV and make sure that she entered it correctly and to value it correctly. We moved in January, 1,232 vehicles. In February, 1,197. And the chart's there in front of you, so I'm going to let you read it because you don't need me reading it to you. The only thing that I caution you on is the value when we're talking about proration. Value is full year value. You value it at the value that it would have on January 1st. You keep that value, you prorate the tax, okay? So your numbers, if you sit down and you multiply times 2.55%, you're not going to get the answer that we got because you have full year values. And these numbers are just for certain months, certain number of months, okay? As you can see down where it says personal property book totals, the live book had $12,996,892.37. The prorated book, had we done it, would have had $14,357,117.48. She checked everything she did. We have everything locked so that if anybody has any questions, if anybody wants to see anything, it's all there to be seen, okay? There was a difference in the motor vehicle fees simply because we added 9,965 cars through proration, and that's just through 9 months. Okay? The next page, they sort of estimated what a whole year would have been. Now, we don't know what a whole year would have been because we didn't do a whole year. We only did until the second week of August. Okay? If we had done the whole year, we would have firm numbers. I want you to remember that if we go to proration, I'm not guaranteeing $1 million every year. I don't know what sales will be like. I don't know what the economy is going to bring to us. This is just a way. It started out with me to be a way to help clean up my records, and it will. It will clean up my records, plus it will bring money to Montgomery County. It will also make it easier for people to remember when they bought a car and when they got rid of it. And you think that's not a problem, but it is. If they wait 2 or 3 years before the bill gets to them, when they move several times, they can't remember whether they sold it in, let's see, did I sell it in January or did I sell it in December? That makes a big difference. It's a different year, okay? All I can say is now it's up to you. I've done my part, now you need to do yours, okay? Thank you.
Wait a minute, we might have some questions. Yeah, can't get away that, you don't get away that easy. Okay. Questions from the board members? Okay.
I just got a couple for you.
Okay.
If what I own today, as long as I keep it for however long, the taxes will not go up on it, right? Unless this board changes.
Unless this board raises your
Right. So
taxes.
this is not a tax increase.
Right. Now, the value of it may go down.
Right.
The value of it may go up, but only because of NADA.
Right.
Okay? It's whatever the fair market value of your car is times the tax rate that this board sets.
Right.
Okay.
Now, how many additional people are you going to need?
I only need the lady that I have.
All right, thank you.
She's done an excellent job, excellent job.
Yeah, okay,
No, go ahead.
okay. Yeah, go ahead.
A few things. You've heard the treasurer came and spoke before us, and I believe you were here that night, and I may be wrong, but he indicated that it was going to need a lot more employees.
Well, I don't need more than her.
All right.
And they have gone to class with Munis, the program that we use. And Catherine says that if we use the Munis program the way it was meant to be used, not necessarily the way the treasurer's used to using it, that he won't need that much more help either.
Well,
Now, I can't speak for the treasurer. The treasurer has to speak for himself.
But I'm trying to figure out the value, and I'm a big believer, if I sell my car on January 5th, I shouldn't have to pay the taxes for the full year. The way it currently is, I would pay taxes for the full year if I sell my car on January 5th, correct?
Right. And somebody else may get that whole year free because you're paying for it.
Right. And so I look at that as in many ways fundamental fairness, but I'm also looking at this and saying, okay, this year from this projection, I guess is it 1.3 million? Is it
through 8 months?
Through 8 months. Yeah. So I'm hearing what the treasurer's saying is we're going to have to hire a lot more employees, and that one is not even going to get close to doing it. And I'm trying to weigh, and you may have seen the presentation that where he brought someone up from Roanoke County.
I can't speak for the treasurer.
I understand that.
I can't speak for the treasurer, but it's going to be a lot like it is now. The book's going to be processed, the tax tickets are going to go out, and then we're going to continue to prorate. Like, she stopped the second week of August to get this ready for you. We'll stop just like we always do and process the book, okay? Then, once that book is processed and sent to the treasurer's office, we will start supplementing the cars that have sold since then until the end of the year from DMV downloads, okay?
I guess going back to my point, as far as have you spoken with fellow members from other districts who have proration? And I know that you don't run the treasurer's office, but to address our concerns that you might need more help than what you think you're going to need, that you're only right now going to need one person. Have you talked with other jurisdictions to find out, well,
the jurisdictions that I have talked to are the ones who have just recently, in the last 2.5 years, gone to proration, and they would ask for 2 or 3 people, and the board would only give them one, and every one of them made proration work.
Can I ask what those jurisdictions were that you spoke with?
I spoke with Powhatan,
Okay.
Culpeper. I can't think of the other ones, but I will get that to you.
Okay.
There are 4 or 5 counties that have gone to proration just since we started talking.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Are these revenue, I seem to remember vaguely your previous presentation, in which you actually, I think, talked about these other localities and their, the differences in revenues that they've experienced, and all of them were positive as well.
Right.
Do you remember, and again, I apologize for not remembering myself, are these projections in line with those other counties?
I think they're pretty much in line with them. It's like 15% that initial year, and then they said don't promise you more than 3% after that because it might not happen, and 3% might not happen. We don't know. I hesitate to tell you you're going to get something that you're not.
Sure.
But people buy and sell cars all the time. It's you know. Every one of these have over 1,000 cars each month.
Yeah.
So
And you said your August one is not the full month,
it's
is that
not.
correct? It's just 2 weeks?
That's why you only
Okay.
see 338.
Yeah,
It's just 2 weeks. Okay?
Okay, Mr. Gray.
Got a couple of things. What is the size of the Powhatan and the size of Culpeper?
They're much smaller than we are. I think Culpeper has like 48,000 residents, and I'm not sure about Powhatan. I do have that chart, and I'll be glad to bring it, to email it to you.
Yeah, and I know they're smaller, that's the reason I asked the question, because, you know, it seems to me that, how many people does Montgomery County have?
We've got 97.
97 more than Roanoke.
So, we're looking at 4,800 people. Or did you say 48,000 people? I think
Yeah,
what you're saying.
48,000.
For Culpeper, and we're sitting here on 90-some million that thinks it's going to take the same amount of people to work it?
The system's already set up. All we have to do is download.
Even so.
Yeah. All we have to do is download.
There's, you know,
But
there's
remember, if you remember,
80,000 members different, so.
yeah, but if you remember back when I asked to let me try this, I said that we would work, she will do only proration. That is all she will do. She won't be doing any of the side jobs that everybody else does. She will work downloads, she will do corrections, she will do supplementals, she will do the correspondence that is needed. And that will keep her busy.
I figured it might if these other people are going to get busy and feed other people.
Okay?
I do have a follow-up question. I want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly and trying to make informed decisions.
Okay.
You indicated that the initial year we're going to get more.
Right.
And the numbers that we're looking at, the 1.3 for the 8 months, is that on a 3% increase, or is
That
it
what?
the $1.3 million through August? Is that on the 3% return?
No, that's the higher return, somewhere between 15 and 17.
All right. So if we're at 15 and 17, and you're saying that after that first year, we're going to go down to 3%.
Well, that's what they say we're going to do. I don't know what we're going to do.
Okay, but that's the average?
That's what they say, don't promise more than 3%.
Okay.
And then you be
Wait.
thankful if you get more.
But that's 3% growth on top of that. Okay, so it's not, we're not going to lose that. If we were to gain 1.3, we'd still have that 1.3, and then it'd be 3% on top of that,
Right,
correct?
Mark? Is that right? You didn't, okay.
I want to make sure we're not going back and taking Matt's point. What I was trying to get at is, all right, we're at 15% growth for that first year, and then you're saying at 3% on top of that
Right.
the next year.
Yeah.
We're not saying that we go from 15% down to 3%.
No,
Okay.
we're going to add that 3% each year, right? We hope. Okay. They don't know, they haven't looked at it. But that's the impression that I get. Okay?
Is there any way you can follow up and provide us that information? Because before I make that, I want to make sure that I'm looking at
Yes.
that
Yes.
we're not, yes, we get $1.3 million first year, and then it goes down to 1/5 of that.
Right.
And then it doesn't pay for itself if we add in new employees. Okay. Thank you.
I will get back to you on that and the counties and the population.
I pulled up the population. Powhatan's 28,000, and you said 45, but I think the other county, Culpeper, is 48,000.
Okay.
And I appreciate what Helen said as well. The finance staff has not had a chance to review this information either, and so what I would offer as well is we'll be glad to sit down and take a look as well to make sure we're all in the same ballpark.
Right.
So
Yeah, that was what I was going to suggest, like
Yeah.
maybe let our staff, work with the report and then sort of follow up with it. I think that would be good.
Be more than happy to do that.
That's right. And then, just like, there will probably be sometime before this board would take any action, when they would need staff to verify those numbers and
Yeah.
and make a recommendation to us.
And I have all that. If anybody
and,
wants to come look at it, I have it all,
Yeah.
okay?
And evidently, it must be something good in proration, because you said like 5 localities just went to it.
Yep.
If it was so bad, they wouldn't have went to it, right? Yeah.
Okay? Now can I leave? Thank you, thank you.
Thanks for your work, Helen.
Okay, any discussion among us about it, or what?
I just want to emphasize something that Chris said at the very beginning, is that this seems to me, I mean, these are very encouraging numbers, and I do look forward to seeing what our staff have to say when they look at those same numbers. I'm sure they'll be the same thing. But it's always good to double check. But something that Chris mentioned, to me, this is an issue about fairness, is that, if you buy a car, you pay proper taxes on that car for the period that you own it. So it's not that, you get a year free, or that you unjustly pay for a year of taxes when you've sold the car and you don't have that. So, the adding the money is just kind of an added benefit.
Could I see if someone here can maybe clear me up on something? On the first page, we've got all the dates and stuff on it. It's got 2015 model vehicles added. And that was $1,809.
1,809.
Vehicles.
Vehicles, okay. That works out the same way either way for what I'm looking at. Right beside of that is 2016 model vehicles added, and 77. Do we really think that 77 is a good figure?
I guess
That's-
That's the number of vehicles that have been downloaded for 2015, 1,809 have been downloaded so far this year. And 77 2016s have been downloaded so far this year.
Because the
I'm trying to think,
2016s
the
are
new
out.
cars come out, I know,
Yeah, they're
in
out.
advance.
They've been out for 4 months.
Yeah, some of them have, yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the make and
You can't
model.
look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, and we've got the highest population of dealerships in the country, right here in Montgomery County. So if they're not doing 17, they're gonna be out of business tomorrow, or 77, they're gonna be out, all of them together. Somebody's gonna be out of business.
Well, it says, but we haven't downloaded since the second week of August.
So you still got,
Yeah, we got,
it's in the second week of September, you got a whole month.
right, that haven't been downloaded, plus the rest of the year, okay?
And Gary, you know the car business better than I do. I just don't know when the new model years, at the second week of August, they're all coming out in August or July for the 2016s. I tend to buy last year's model, even if it's new, when I buy a new car, but
There's no telling when they come out, whenever they think that one is right for the picking, that's when they get started. And then they'll make them as fast as they can make them, and till somebody gets so many they can't swallow anymore, and they'll quit for a while.
Okay, other comments before we move on? I guess everybody's satisfied that this issue would be studied by
Staff.
staff and then be brought back at a later date.
But what we'll do, Mr. Chair, is I'll ask Angie and Mark to work with Helen and her staff and double check some things, and then we'll bring the information back to the board.
I did get a call from the treasurer, and like I explained to him, we wasn't going to delay this meeting, wasn't going to put it off, and that if he wanted to look at it on YouTube and that we as a board would not be taking any action tonight. And then if he wanted to come and make a presentation to us, he could do that at a later date about this. So I think he's on vacation or something. So we'll move on. If nobody have any comments, the EDA refunding opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe the next couple of items, Courtney Rogers is with us this evening from Davenport. Courtney, glad to have you here. And I believe Courtney's going to cover 2, 3, and 4.
My God, Angie working on another board, ain't you?
As long as she stays away from that.
While Angie's handing that out, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good to see you all again. Thought we'd make good use of time.
Sure.
I was down here, we're going to cover a couple of different things tonight. The first item, we were asked to send out a request for proposals to see if we could lower the interest rate on the EDA loans. And as many of you know, interest rates have been trending down. The chart on the far left shows back to 1990. We've been in a really good borrowing environment. If you look back on the right side, you'll see since August of 2014, rates have been kind of all over the place. Starting to see a little bit of a trend where they're coming down, but as many of you probably are aware, this week the Fed meets and there's a lot of folks who think they might raise rates. The interesting thing is our market has pretty much built that in already, and so we're not really sure rates are going to necessarily go up. Point really is it's not a bad time to be borrowing money or refinancing in this case, and so here we are. We sent out a request for proposals back in mid-August to refinance, and this is a taxable bond versus tax exempt. The objective was really reducing the debt service over the next several years, and so we'll show you what that looks like. We received one proposal, and it happened to be the actual one of the two institutions that have outstanding loans on this particular issue at the moment. You might say, well, what happened? What happened to the other banks? And there's a number of different reasons that folks didn't come to the table, and we talked directly with a number of them. One, this is a non-essential project. Some of the things that have happened in the last several years with local governments, non-essential projects is desirable by some of the banks, so they shied away. In this case, as opposed to some of the other loans we've done, the county is not the underlying borrower. You're just really there for support purposes, and so that some of the folks were not happy about that and wanted to see a more direct role. Banks' market footprint. The banks have been really tight with their money. If they can lend you money and turn around and also get your day-to-day banking relationship, things like that, that can make a difference. So that's what that really means there. Fixed rate for the desired term. We were hoping we could go out maybe 10, 15, 20 years. We only got a fixed rate for 5 years. And a lot of the banks have been very tight with not going out too far with their fixed rates. An appetite for taxable bonds. Some folks just only want to deal with tax-exempt bonds. And then finally, subject to appropriation type credits, or a lot of folks want to just have straight GO bonds. So the proposal that we received from Union Bank was basically for an amount up to 9.75 that would basically pay off the 2 existing loans. They gave us 2 options. One was a 5-year fixed rate, and I mentioned we didn't get a 10, but the 10-year rate we got, you'll see in a moment, actually doesn't make sense from a cash flow standpoint to meet our objective. So we did get one 10-year here. Both allow us to amortize the loan over 20 years, and that's the only way we could make this work. We keep our cash flows lower. We are able to prepay it at any time, so if we see rates getting a little bit better down the road and we are not at that 5-year point yet, we can actually refinance it before that 5-year point. They didn't add any closing costs on their side. They still have to go through some credit approval, but seeing as they are the existing, they have the existing note, should be in good shape there. And essentially, we just have to close by the first week in October. So to show you a comparison on the next 2 pages, the first page here on page 6, the 2.57 rate. On the left side show the existing loans between Union and Floyd. They total up If you look at the full year, 2016 is just the remaining part of this year. The full year for 2017, as an example, is basically just shy of $660,000 for the debt service. The white part is fixed. Once we get past 2020, the existing loans change, or will change. And that's why part of it is shaded, because the Floyd rate actually jumps up in 2021, and you can see that payment jumps up by about $10,000 a month, a year. And then the Union, while it's shaded because that is based on the existing rate, but their loan document allows that to be changed depending upon where the market is at that time. So what we're doing is basically fixing this rate for the next 5 years. The new rate, our new payments will be $613,000 and change. So we'll be saving about $46,000 per year over the next 5 years. So just shy of $50,000 per year. Now, if we look at that 10-year rate on the next page, and that's at 3.5%, you'll see when we compare the $659 current payment to the new rate of 3.5%, it's actually higher in the first 5 years by just a little under $10,000 per year. And then based on assuming that the Union rate were to stay the same, which is a big assumption, it would be slightly better, but not by much, in years 6 through 10. So, to wrap up on this piece, our recommendation, if we want to achieve that roughly $50,000 per year savings, that we accept the 257 5-year rate from Union and move forward with that. Basically, the existing rates are 340 and 304, so we'll reduce one by almost 1%, the other one by about 50 basis points. So that will reduce our debt service payments there by about $46,000 per year. So I'll pause there before we move on to the next section and see if there are any questions.
I like to ask questions.
Absolutely.
It's part of my profession. I want to make sure that I understand. What is the balloon cap? It says that our rate is at 2.57%, and it's fixed for the 5 years.
It'd be fixed through 2020.
All right. What rate would we be at in year 6?
It depends on the market at that point. But what we would be doing as your advisor is looking at it with the finance staff and deciding, do we even take it out sooner than that?
Okay.
If the county may, we could be out there getting other funds for whatever reason, we might lump it together.
I just worry about if the interest rates did jump, because, we're at historic lows right now.
Right.
And 5 years down the road, are we putting ourselves in a bad position when they come due? And while the 10-year doesn't help us immediately financially, it provides us 10 years of security at a low fixed rate.
And the current loan is going to change as well.
I know.
In 5 years. So we're kind of in that boat already.
Is there, and again, I know I've been doing this 4 years, but I was wondering, is there in bond rates, is there a cap on the balloon where, is that something possible that you could look at where, say, no higher than 5%, no higher than 6%? Over the life of the...
At this point, between Union and Floyd's, there's no guarantee that they will lend you money year 6 and beyond for Union, and basically year 11 and beyond for Floyd. So there's no, we weren't a part of those two loans, so I don't think there's a cap in there. And generally in a taxable deal, they don't have caps.
I don't believe there is.
I'm thinking of balloon rates and more commercial transactions and not necessarily governmental.
No, there definitely is, and has been with this loan for some time, interest rate risk, because we've not locked it in for long periods of time. Part of it is wanting to keep the flexibility, and that's a real key, is that we have the ability to pay it off. If somebody came forward and wanted to buy the building, pay off the loan, we've got that ability. But that is a risk. There's no question.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Creek?
Yeah, what exactly do we do if we take out a 5-year loan and 3 years down the road from the time we take it out, the banks go crazy and we can't, the only thing they'll give us is higher rates? Where does that put us?
Basically, it puts us in the same situation we're in now, which means we try to get the best rate we can and hopefully refinance when rates come back down. That's unfortunately the best answer I can give you right now.
That's what we've been doing.
So we swallow whatever pills out there in order to get a 5-year possible loan And what's the rate on the loan that we've got now?
340 and 304.
What was it?
340 and 304.
It's right here on this page.
So that's the existing loan, it's basically set up similar to what we've got now.
Yeah, right there. Sure.
So our debt service comparison there, 2.57,
Right.
and if it turns around, we're gonna wish we had our old loan back, I expect. That's all. Everybody's smart enough to figure that out.
Other questions?
Is there any penalties if we turn around and invest or pay down the debt utilizing the savings at the $48,000 a year? Then is there any penalties for paying it off as we go to try to help us a little bit to prepare for if something bad comes down the pipe?
None whatsoever. There's a couple different ways you could do that. You could pay it off as you went. It's a lot of work to do a little $50,000 down, but we could. But at the same time, you could save that money and actually just reduce the amount we have to refinance at year 5. There's another way to think about it.
So just set that money aside into a set fund to be able to pay it down? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. We'll talk about schedule in just a moment because we're going to kind of tie a couple of different things together. But the EDA is going to meet tomorrow and talk about this. I think I'll come back to the schedule.
Oh, and I was going to say staff has reviewed this information at the end of last week, and it's staff's recommendation that we consider moving forward. The two debts that we currently have with Bank of Union and with Bank of Floyd, both are 5-year calls, if you will. So what we're basically doing, swapping 3.4 debt and 304 debt for 2.57 debt. Now, yes, in 5 years, we're back at the table, but we're back at the table with all of them. So,
But how much does that cost you in addition to your payback?
you talking about for closing costs and all that?
This is built, the closing costs are built in. So the numbers you're seeing are net.
So then, okay.
The closing costs are built in.
Right. This
So
is
the net savings are 47,000. Yeah, about 47,000 plus or minus a year.
Yeah, and you know us, we're conservative. This will be better than this because we've estimated high. We haven't got all the cost additions yet.
And that certainly could be used for a variety of things. I know that one thing that Brian's been concerned about as well is that this is on the technology manufacturing building, and the challenge we have when air conditioners break and other things is the cash flow right now has been pretty tight. So he was looking at a little breathing room as well. So.
No, that's what's in it, and then it's back the other way. The paper that we've got out here says no closing costs.
That's the bank side. That's the bank's not asking for additional costs. Okay.
Okay.
We'll move on to item 3 then, which is fiscal policy guideline review. I think the last time I was in front of you was at your retreat back in January, and we talked a little bit about just financial policies and updating them. So really what we're here is we've updated them a little bit more from what we talked back then, and are looking for you all to move forward with this, I think, at your next meeting in a couple of weeks. So I wanted to go through these, give you an opportunity to ask questions. As a part of what we do when we're talking to the rating agencies, as they either call us for surveillance or we go to them to borrow money, one of the things they look at is management. And that is the board, that is your staff management, but it's also policies you put in place. And so periodically we look at those, and things change in the marketplace as to what people are looking at, particularly the rating agencies. 2 of the 3 rating agencies in the last year and a half have updated their criteria for looking at municipalities. And literally this week, we got an email from the 3rd rating agency who has out for comment changes to their policies and the way they look at their ratings. That's Fitch Ratings, and they'll be going live with that in January. So we're trying to keep up with the times, if you will. So as part of that, page 11, I'm going to go through different policies on several of these pages. The first one to look at is fund balance. And the first thing I'll point out is we're using a term unassigned fund balance. That is a CAFR term, that's a GASB term. It doesn't mean cash, it's not a cash basis. But it's something the rating agencies use when they compare one local government to another as they're trying to nationally compare different localities. And our policy there in the upper left corner is that your policy has been a target of 8 to 10% of the general fund plus school operating fund revenues. You see the chart there on the right. We've got a comparison of you as well as the national medians as well as the Virginia different medians, and then we've shown the other AA2 localities so you can kind of see how you match up there. I will say the AAA median in Virginia is a little bit skewed because Fairfax County has a 3% fund balance right now, and they're actually on negative outlook by Moody's, and these are Moody's. This is actually data that comes from Moody's because they're a little bit lower than their national median, which you can see is much higher. So it's a little bit skewed there. What we're recommending here on the left side there is to actually move the target to 12% and basically remove the 8%. So essentially we wouldn't have a range anymore, we would just have a set number of 12%. And the reason for the higher number, which doesn't need for you to make any changes or add anything to where you are, you're already there and have been there. The reason is that the agencies have put more emphasis on liquidity and cash flow and being able to get through a tough time like they saw many localities get through in 2008, and they want to make sure that folks have enough cash. And so you can see that the national medians are up in the 18 to 20% range. One thing I will note is that Virginia, North Carolina are a little bit different than some of the other states out there. The majority of the states don't have school districts that they also fund. What I mean by that is Pennsylvania, for instance, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has independent school districts who raise their own taxes. And so if you take all the counties in Pennsylvania and you compare their fund balance to their general fund, their percentage is going to be a lot higher because they don't have schools added in there. Ours has schools, and that's why you see Virginia's medians being a little bit lower than the national. The agencies know that. They take that into account. We've taken that into account with our 12%. Our 8 to 10, which we always shot for the 10%, has served us well. We've made it up into the mid-AA category. But to stay strong and to stay in that area, we want to look at going higher. And so that's our reasoning for going to the 12%. Additionally, we want to take the opportunity to add one of the things they like to see is if for some reason you do drop below that you have some type of plan. And so we want to change it to some language that would basically say that how that would be replenished. In other words, if you did do it, you have a plan to put it back over a certain period of time, and that's stated when that fund balance is used or it's dropped down below that target. And then finally, we just want to change some verbiage in there, change the words reserve target with unassigned fund balance so we're clear what we're talking about and which part of the reserves we're using here. Any questions on that one?
Questions, comments?
We did that one first because that is a key one. This is also important as well. This, of course, is something that served us well. It's, of course, it's kept us from borrowing over the last several years because of taking on 2 high schools at once, along with some of the other projects that we had. And that is the debt service policy that governs the amount of debt service divided by our annual budget. And we basically have had a policy of 10 to 12%. We're not recommending changing that. That's served us well. You can see that we are out there further than some of the medians, but it hasn't affected our rating on a negative basis. We do want to add some clarifying language, though, just to make sure that it's clear that we are adding the school fund in there. And also, as we thought more about it, we really aren't trying to target a 10 to 12%. We're not purposely trying to keep our debt levels high. So we thought changing that word with strive to be below might be more accurate for this particular policy as we were cleaning things up. Similar on page 13, our other key debt policy is the amount of total debt provided by the assessed value of the county, including personal property. And that basically is a 3 to 4% Similar to the last policy, we thought we would change that target, because we're not purposely trying to issue debt to get to that level, would be to say strive to be below. So again, it's rather than trying to set ourselves up as we're shooting for that, we want to stay below those numbers. This is a new policy, page 14, is a payout ratio policy. It's something we've kind of kept an eye on and talked to finance staff as we've been working through our debt issuances over the last several years, but we never formally put this in place, and would like to see you do that. And that is basically how quickly you pay your debt off, how quickly we're paying principal off. If we do 30-year issues consistently, it's going to be a slower rate of paying down that debt. Typically, local governments try to pay off their debts for large capital projects over a 20-year period. And so when you have a number of those laid on top of each other, typically you see them paying it off in anywhere from a 60 to 70% clip. Here you'll see the national medians are around 75%. And that's, if you think about it, a lot of folks will borrow for fire trucks and police cars over a shorter basis, so that helps make that payout ratio go faster. So it's essentially the amount of principal you're paying off over the next 10 years divided by your total outstanding debt. So an example would be, and our suggestion here is to maintain at least 60% over a 5-year period and not dropping below 55 in any 1-year period. So essentially, kind of stair-stepping up there. We're in the 70% range. If we can stay there, that's great. But obviously bodes well for where we are. The next one on page 15 is in terms of cash spent on capital projects. You have a policy in place currently that basically says that you try to make a down payment of at least 5% of total project costs as you look at your capital program. One of the thoughts is to add some language in there basically saying that you have a long-term goal to designate a portion of the annual general fund cash for one-time capital projects. And essentially what that's saying is that you will take some of your ongoing cash and put it into the capital fund, or keep using it for pay-go capital.
And we've actually
we're not borrowing for it.
right, and we've actually
Right.
done some of that already with the set-asides that we've done.
Correct. So really, some of this is really putting in place what you've been doing and adding that into your policies. And then we've got a couple of policies that have just dated themselves and are policies that were put in place with your assistance, with our assistance many years ago. But at this point, there are a couple that the agencies just frankly aren't looking at. Debt per capita, that was a policy that was put in place many years ago. Folks used that to kind of define how much debt divided by your population, but it really has never kept up with inflation. So it's one that's dated. It's been many years since it's really been talked about in any of the rating meetings that we've been a part of. The second one is debt versus income. Since you don't have an income tax, it's not one they look at for the state of Virginia. It's one that they would look at. So that's another one that just basically has kind of dated itself, and we'd recommend taking those out of our policies. Mr. Chairman, that is all I have on that particular portion. I'll pause again and see if there's any questions on any of those pages.
Questions?
Mr. Chair, what staff would like to do is we will formalize these in terms of recommendations and have them for a future meeting should the board be willing for us to do that. This has, again, been reviewed with staff, and we've had conversations with Courtney, and also, as Courtney mentioned, had conversations with the rating agencies on what policies that they're looking at now. So this would just bring us to where we need to be with our policies.
And I think in light of what I'm about to talk about, we'd like to try to do that sooner rather than later, because we may be talking to the agencies sooner than we thought. A month ago, when we started working on the RFP for the technology building, even back then, this wasn't on our radar. It was on our radar because we're always looking at it, but it wasn't at a point that it made sense to bring this to staff. And then about a couple of weeks ago, as rates continued to come down, time has moved along. This has now popped up to where it makes sense to look at the refunding of the Series 2008 bonds. You might recall these bonds were issued for the courthouse, Price's Fork, and Elliston Elementary School, as well as some other capital projects. One of the things that we look at with this is a refunding that essentially is not, these bonds are not callable until February of 18. That's essentially another 2 and almost a half years. So what we have to do is we borrow the money today at today's rates. We take that money invested between now and that call date in U.S. Treasuries, which, as you know, for a 2.5-year Treasury is not a very high rate of interest right now with rates being so low. So essentially, even though we're going to borrow at a low interest rate, it's a lot higher than that reinvestment rate. So essentially, we're going to lose money for 2.5 years on that transaction. And we call that negative arbitrage. And that's the number you'll see at the bottom left corner. That's the $1.7 million. We keep an eye on that number because if that number is too big, then it doesn't really make sense for us to go out and save what we're showing as $2.3 million in net present value savings. We like to see that ratio be better than 1-to-1 and closer to 2-to-1 if we can get there. And so these are very conservative numbers that we showed staff a couple weeks ago, and wanted to bring to your attention and get your nod, if you would, to if you desire for us to keep moving forward and bring this back to you at a later date with documents that will allow us to go forward and do this refunding. The far right side, you can see the gross dollars, or net dollars, excuse me. This is net of expenses, net budgetary savings. The bonds in 17 and 18 basically don't make sense to refinance right now, so there's not as great a savings in those years. But starting in 2019, we would save about $225,000 per year, totaling about $2.7 million, and this would be locked in for the entire, these rates would be locked in. The current interest rates are 4.375. They range from there to 5% on the existing bonds. And our estimate on the new bonds is in the range of 284 for basically our new cost of borrowing. So essentially, we're going to save that differential, and that's what translates into that 2.7 million. So what we're thinking on that, we've got a schedule here, and this kind of covers a couple different things. The top part is really the above the shaded line is the first part of it tonight, the technology building. We had the meeting tonight to present it to you. Tomorrow we're going to talk to the EDA, and they will take action on the documents if they desire to move forward. And then if they move forward, this will be brought back to you, the technology building, on the 28th for you to take official action. And I think we were hoping to maybe take action on the policies that night as well.
Yes.
And then we'd close by October 5th. On the refunding of the larger bonds, the 08 bonds, basically we look to come back to you on the 12th of October with documents, because it takes us time to pull together the public offering documents so they're in a form good enough for you to approve for us to continue moving forward. Then we'd have the EDA meeting about a week later, their meeting to take action, because this is one of those bonds that's similar to the technology building, that it goes through the EDA, but the difference is this is really, you're the obligor here. It's the revenues of the county are supporting it, and not lease payments from someone else. And then essentially our goal would be to try to price those bonds the week of the 26th and close by November 15th. So it's kind of the schedule we're thinking. Fairly aggressive, and obviously depends upon what happens with interest rates over the next several weeks.
Okay. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, it's hard. I wish I had a crystal ball to tell you that we'll just wait and it'll get better as we get closer to the fall date. But it's hard to say. I've stood here, I can't tell you how many times I said rates are going to go up, and they haven't. It could be I'm standing here a year from now and they don't go up. But we felt it was our job to at least bring it forward. Here's an opportunity. Mr. Meadows knows we've talked about this about 3 or 4 different times this year alone, when other folks have brought it to the county's attention, and we've looked at it and said, no, it's not right yet.
time.
It needs to mature a little bit. But we now think it's there.
Okay.
Questions?
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, we have item 5 on there. Before we go to item 5, let's take like a 5-minute break, and let's try to hold it to 5 or 6 minutes so we can get out of here. Let us continue on, and I think we were at 5, Veterans Memorial Park, Town of
Yes.
Christiansburg.
Yes, sir, and this one will be very quick. We've been asking, I think it's in your packet, is tab H, or it could be tab J, I'm not sure. H, well, for some reason mine's J, so but anyway. We had a request from the town of Christiansburg. We maintain a park. I call it a park. It's a grassy area across from the public safety building, opposite corner from the post office, that has a monument, a monument that has veterans of various wars and whatnot. And there's always been some discussion about who really owns that. We maintain it. It's a very small piece of property. And the mayor approached me a couple of weeks ago and said that his council would like to designate that area and name it Veterans Monument Park, because there's a monument there, and that's where the ceremony wreath laying is when they have various events. And I told him I certainly didn't see an issue with that, because again, we are maintaining it. He's not asking for anything other than to designate it as Veterans Monument Park. And they also want to put a plaque at the site designating it that as such. And it would be dedicated by the town and the county. And the plaque that they're talking about would have the town and the county seal. Again, I told him I didn't have an objection to it, but that was certainly something that I would want the board's input and approval on before I said okay. So that's why this is on the agenda this evening.
So this is a county parcel of land?
There's a great debate on whether it's county or town. We maintain it. It's if you go back in the county's history, there used to be the courthouse used to sit right in the middle. I think, and I haven't done the research on this, I think that was probably part of the land that belonged to the original courthouse, I think.
We can check if you want us to look for it.
But again, we maintain it. It's a very small parcel.
Which parcel is that? I mean, which?
It's right in front of the antique store.
Yeah, that little corner.
The antique shop in downtown
Yeah.
Christiansburg, right across from where the public safety building is going to be.
Talking
And
about the thing that they're fixing now?
No, across the street from it.
Across from it.
It's
Over
just
by
a-
where the old post office used to be.
Right.
No, the other way, the opposite corner.
Other corner.
The other corner.
It's in there at the four-way.
I just give it to them if they want it.
No, we don't want to give it to them. They want to do a designation. We maintain everything. They just want to be able to put up a sign, Veterans Monument Park, and that with our seal on it, their seal, and the United States flag on it.
And again, the only maintenance we do is the grass, the curb and everything the town takes care of, the curbing and the sidewalks.
And I get that at the part of the county and it's in the town of Christiansburg.
Right.
Is there, and I'm just putting this out there, is the town of Blacksburg going to be a part of it since it is an entity, or do they not want to? You see what I'm saying? Both Christiansburg and Blacksburg are part of the county.
I couldn't.
That's the other reason which I would say that we should give it to the town that wants it.
But, and I may have a little bit, I went over there this Memorial Day and just picked out a veteran and just did some research on him and just tried to find out as much as I could about one of the veterans who had died. It's only those who have been killed in action serving our country, and it's got each one of the different wars, starting at World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, and then the continued Iraq and Afghanistan conflict. So it lists each one of those who have been killed in action. And I'm happy. Anything that we can do to celebrate our veterans, I want to do. I'm happy to make it and work with the town on designating it.
I think that goes to ownership. I mean, if it's a county park, then it should recognize all parts of the county. If it's a town park, then, or if it's town property, then
Each one of the veterans are listed, are from all over the county. And the reason, I know that the one fellow who I had researched had been out from out in the county, out at Plum Creek area, as I understand it. And so now he's buried up in the cemetery up in Christiansburg at Sunset. But I know that Wade, I looked at him, there was Wade that was killed from Blacksburg in Vietnam that was listed on there. So I think that it encompasses everybody in the county is listed, not just the
This does too. I mean, it don't mention just, this is Veterans Monument Park. This is for all those who served, have served, and those who may ultimate sacrifice to keep our citizens free. I mean, it don't say. It's not weeding out Blacksburg.
What's that? Well, no, but right below it says dedicated by the town of Christiansburg in Montgomery County.
And I think the reason, and I'm just speculating.
Over here.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's in downtown Christiansburg.
Yeah.
I'm being devil's advocate, and it's 9 o'clock, sorry.
I think we'll let them do it.
Ain't got no dog in this race.
I mean, we're in work session, we at least could get maybe consensus in work session. That's one, or whatever.
I'd like to know
Okay.
who owns the property. I mean, I don't think that's a, like, I have no problem with renaming the park. No problem at all with that. But I mean, how
Okay, well,
you signpost it, it's going to be there for generations. And if it's not fair that if it's a county thing, even though it's technically within Christiansburg, I mean, we're not naming, the public safety building the town of Christiansburg Public Safety Building just because it's within town limits. So, I mean, and that's just information that the staff can gather and
Be glad to.
let us
You know,
know.
the other part of that is, how many more people can we put on there? How many have we already got out there in Montgomery and that has not been honored in that fashion?
Well, they're not changing it. They just won't put this sign up.
Right, and
That's
they
all they
won't put
wanna
the
do.
sign up, but there's a fair amount of room on the monuments, and there might be, hopefully, we would like to think that you wouldn't have to add a lot more big sections of granite to carve names in, but there is more room, and like I said, it was just like a personal project. I went and did some research on one of the veterans, and you and I are Facebook friends. You can go back at Memorial Day and look it up, and I've got it all listed. And I took pictures of just about most of the names on there, I think.
And it only counts those who have fallen in duty.
In the line of duty, in the wars I mentioned. It doesn't go past, I don't believe it includes the Spanish-American War, but it includes World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and the like.
I certainly have no problem, however it may go.
Well, anybody know who put the monument up?
It's probably a veterans group at some point, I'm sure.
1 second, let me see.
so the problem seems to be we don't know who owns the property. That's the first problem, and the second problem is, since it includes veterans from Blacksburg, are we excluding Blacksburg by not having them be on the plaque? Is that what the problem is?
I don't think there's a problem. I just think we need some information. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
We've been asked by the town
Yeah.
of Christiansburg to do something, but we don't know
who
anything.
owns
I mean,
it.
we don't know who put up.
Yeah.
I mean, these are things that can be easily researched. They just need to be researched. So I just think a little more background before we make any decision is.
And then maybe it would,
Can't hurt anything.
yeah, and then maybe that would lead to the next part about the Blacksburg part, if we find out who actually owns the thing.
Well, I think the reason the mayor has requested this on behalf of the town is it's in the center of downtown Christiansburg. So he's just saying that they would like to dedicate a plaque that signifies the park as part of the town of the Christiansburg and the county. So I don't think it's at the exclusion of Blacksburg. It's just the parks in Christiansburg.
Why don't we? Maybe we could suggest this: is that it seems like there's consensus on the board to put up a sign, just what goes on the sign needs to be researched a little bit more.
Already got it right
So
here.
you could respond to the mayor saying, the board is fully in support of putting up a sign. We'll have a plan for what should be on the sign very soon.
And it might be something, one thing brings on another when my mind starts thinking about it. How many people use the parking meters when they come through there? You know, that's,
They've taken up they've got 2-hour parking in downtown, so they're not having to.
Do the
there's no kind of meter there now?
Not in Christiansburg.
Not downtown Christiansburg now. There used to be meters on the road portion of it and those in front, but there's no meters at all now. It's all either 2 or 3 hour parking. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, there are no.
But if you miss them, you can come to Blacksburg. It's $1 an hour.
Craig, is this the sign they wanted to put
Gotta give
up?
them credit.
That's the sign the mayor sent to me that the town would like to put up, yes, sir.
And they're paying for it.
They're
right?
paying for it, yes, ma'am.
I like that part a lot.
Yeah, they
But
didn't
at the
ask,
same time, I'm happy.
they didn't ask for any financial contribution, they just asked.
But I'll say this, you know, for whatever reason, I've been over there for several different Memorial Day functions, Veterans Day functions.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that's an important memorial. I think the more that we can do to beautify it, sometimes you'll see, there's one flag that I see every Memorial Day, and it's where a father's talking about losing his son. And he puts a little inscription on a flag that he leaves there. And so there's a lot of people that have a lot of reverence for that. From all parts of this county, and and I didn't mean to be too much of a devil's advocate. I apologize if I was. I want to honor these veterans, and but I want to make sure that we do it in the right way and we work together as a county.
I mean, like Craig said, you know, this is going in the middle of the town of Christiansburg. I mean, you know, I'd be okay with Blacksburg doing one too, even helping them with it.
The only thing is, I just know that this includes people from Blacksburg who are on this, because apparently when it got done, it was to be everybody in the county.
Right.
And so now we're the county, Christiansburg's county seat. So the natural place for something like that, just like we've had Virginia Tech officer, I assume, and that he'll be on the memorial when we get down there, even though that because he's serving here in Montgomery County, we're not going to. And then the rest of the names, and then when we have first responders.
But the definition is Montgomery County Public Safety Monument, so all the entities in Montgomery County, including the county,
Right.
will,
I mean, you know, all this is, you know, dedicated by the town of Christiansburg and Montgomery County. I mean, they're not leaving Blacksburg out. I mean, it's just in the town of Christiansburg.
do you want the county administrator to reach out to the mayor and ask the mayor to reach out to the town of Blacksburg to see who they want to be included? I don't think it would be. I mean, the mayor initiated it, and if it's the wishes of this board that the town of Blacksburg be included, would it be the mayor's job to reach out to the town of Blacksburg to see what they want to participate in it too? I don't think it would be on us to do it. If we had initiated it, we would.
And I know we joked about it, but I think we ought to pay our fair share as far as the cost of the monument and the like. And it's an attractive.
Well, again, I think this is something that the town wanted to do to honor veterans, and they wanted to put it on this piece of property, and because and we will find out who truly owns the property, but there was a question about if it's the county. He said, I just want to make sure y'all are okay with it.
Yeah.
And I said, okay.
Well, why don't we, maybe I should drop my objection as long as we find out who owns the parcel. Because if the town owns a parcel, then they can
I
do whatever they want.
think probably, Matt, if the town owned it, they probably had some research done themselves. If they owned it, they wouldn't reach out to us, they'd just do it. But they probably checked it and found out that the county owned it.
I'll be real candid, I don't think the mayor thought it would be
An issue?
An issue.
I didn't think it would be an issue either.
I think he was just asking to make sure we were okay, but we can certainly find out.
I think generally it's fine. I mean, I'm just curious why nobody knows anything about this parcel. And I understand, like, I mean, probably traditionally we've just owned it. Maybe we just own it and then we're doing that, and that's fine. But
And it may be a deed that's 230 years old.
sure.
And I'm not kidding. I mean, it may be a grant that came from the king at some point.
To put the
in time,
original courthouse.
for the first courthouse in Montgomery County. And so, I mean, it could be something that old, which would be difficult to figure out who owned it.
Or Fincastle.
We'll
Or
put our,
Fincastle, you know.
we'll put our Ace County attorney on it in the morning.
Well, we either under the town.
Yeah, you can always say that.
Or VDOT could on it, because there used to be a road all the way around it.
True.
Well, it used to be, there was a section across from where the bank is, and there's a monument there. There's across from the post office, and then the county, the courthouse was there on the.
Yeah, we know that one. Yeah, right.
You said, you want to take it to a consensus vote? You could recommend that, and if you want to take it and see what we have.
I think it's fine. I just want to know who owns the property. I'm more worried about kind of longer term is that if this is indeed county property and the town is putting up signs on it, does that mean that the next time town of Christiansburg or town of Blacksburg wants to put up a sign on a county parcel, we're just okay with that, even if it's a monument? The flip side of that is that if it's our parcel, we should pay for it. Like, we're the ones, because the monument if the parcel is owned by the county, if the monument represents people who serve from all across the county, then that's a county responsibility. It's not on the town of Christiansburg to do that. It's nice of them to offer.
Yeah, since the town of Christiansburg initiated, if it is on our property, why don't we sharing the cost?
And
Offer to sharing it if they wanted to do it all themselves.
I think we should at least ask the ones who asked if they could do it. See if they know of anybody that owns it other than us or them.
Okay, you was going to make a
I think make a motion, have consent.
you want to try to
looking for an
gather
up or down?
consensus, up or down on
Yeah, that's good.
letting them
We're in
allow
one
them to do
session
it.
here.
All right, let's do that.
Okay, the consensus, there's 1, 2,
But to
3,
find out who owns it.
4, 5, 6, do it, but we need to report back on who owns it. And do you want him to offer to share the cost or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
If it is county property, yeah.
And
Yeah.
like I said, I did research on Charlie McGilmer, and that's been a while back, and like I said, back in and he's a county resident. So,
Okay, need any other business while we in work session? If not, need a motion to go out of work session?
Motion.
Second.
Have motion second to go out of work session. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Any action after work session? If not, we can just, we already done took it.
Yes, ma'am. We got our marching orders.
Okay. New business, subject A, Prices Fork Food Initiative Planning Grant authorized to sign agreement. Is that food? Yeah, Prices Fork Food Initiative Planning Grant. Oh, okay, yeah, I've read it.
This is a DHCD grant that the county was awarded to help evaluate and plan the former Prices Fork Elementary School for use as a food hub, commercial kitchen, restaurant, or other food-based business use. The PDC will be, the Regional Commission will be helping administer this grant, and it's working with Taylor Holla Construction as they plan the reuse of the old school.
Okay,
Move approval.
Second.
have a motion second, any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Subject B, Proclamation Crime Prevention Month, October 2015. And I'm going to read one whereas. Whereas the vitality of our county depends on how safe we keep our homes, neighborhoods, schools, workplaces, and communities.
All right, so moved.
And that's so true.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins? Aye. Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Subject C, proclaim October 23rd to 31st as Red Ribbon Month week.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Let me read one whereas. Communities across America have been plagued by numerous problems association with illicit drug use and those that traffic in them. And yes, aye. So it has something to do with fighting illicit drugs. Subject D, proclamation, help save the next girl.
I'd like to move it, and this came from our breakfast meeting, the Greater Montgomery breakfast meeting last Wednesday. The town of Christiansburg was doing this, and we asked for a copy of it. So that's where it came from.
And I think it's a very, very good initiative by Dan and Gil Harrington. And it's just sweeping across the country and everything. I mean, they said that even when the people were at the concert over at Tech, they were talking about saving the next girl and the charging stations that they put in Champs and things like that. So I think it's making our young people more aware of the dangers that exist out there.
Well, it's the Harringtons.
Yeah, yeah, they lost the,
Yes, ma'am.
Across Morgan.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did it have a motion and a
Yeah,
second?
just need a second.
Second.
Second. And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Well, we're down to the county attorney's report.
Mr. Chair, I wanted just to bring to the board's attention on the, in the Dropbox on the bottom, it doesn't actually have a tab, but it's under tab J, under the tab J one, it says weed trash ordinance. This is the ordinance that's going to be coming up for public comment or public hearing next meeting on the 28th, and I just wanted to briefly talk about it and just give it to you so you can have time to look at it before, because we've never had something like this. But what we're creating is the removal or disposal of trash, cutting of grass and weeds, and what we're proposing to do is make it illegal for anyone's weeds to be above 12 inches in height or have any trash lying around the parcel that constitutes a public nuisance. And what this ordinance does is it creates a penalty, which would be a civil penalty, not criminal penalty, of $50 per violation. There's a notice provision in there where the county administrator or his deputy has to go through and make sure the owner is notified of what he or she needs to do to fix the problem. Also gives the county authority to go in either with its own forces or with a contracting crew and clean up the property and put a lien on the property for the cost associated with that cleanup. That would include the cost of actually doing the work, plus there's a administrative fee in there as well to cover that cost. And just to make it clear, this ordinance would not apply in the following areas. It wouldn't apply in the two towns because they have their own authority. It wouldn't apply in any A1 zone land that's not in a subdivision. It would apply in everything else, but that's the big thing to think about. If it's A1, it's got to be a platted subdivision for this to apply, and that's under state law. State law, because of our size, will not let us do this type of ordinance in A1 unless it's a platted subdivision. It also wouldn't apply in areas such as areas that are used for pastures, under cultivation, active farming, areas where vegetative growth is regulated under either state or federal law, that might be in a stream bed or things of that nature. It wouldn't apply in a conservation easement if they're growing that. in order to do like stream buffering and things of that nature. It wouldn't apply to an area that has an approved natural landscaping or an area that may be subdivided or have some proffers that says, hey, we're going to grow natural grasses in this area that may be more than 12 inches. Those type of things. Public parklands, it wouldn't apply. And any stormwater management facilities, it wouldn't apply. So basically, it's going to apply in your commercial areas, industrial, residential areas, and then A1 areas that are subdivisions have gone to record and been platted, if that makes sense. So if you get any time, check it out, read it, and like I said, it'll be up on the board's next agenda for public hearing on the 28th. Yes, sir.
Could I ask a couple, just two
Yes.
questions? I know this is in response to some properties that we've had in the county that have been foreclosed and just basically abandoned.
Right.
Was there a reason that it was, for the weeds, the length, was that was stuck at 12 inches?
12 inches is what I found most counties had. Now that can be changed. That's at the board's discretion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a way, and maybe this is more for discussion for next week or next meeting when we have this under discussion, is that, and the only reason that I was thinking about this is because I've passed properties in Blacksburg which are consciously cultivating longer grass. Is that, I mean, it's well maintained, but it's longer. It's almost like a garden. They've turned their lawn into a garden, so they're not spending money on mowing and stuff like that. And I know that I've read some articles about this. This is kind of a trend now, and so I just don't want us to get into a situation in which, if this were to take hold in Montgomery County, that we would need to reverse that. Because obviously what we're trying to do with this is to penalize, or not to penalize, but to deal with properties that are literally abandoned, not for consciously cultivated properties which are maintained, but maybe are longer than, because that's what they want to do with their property. So is there anything in the provision, and again, I haven't looked at it, so maybe it's there, but...
I'll take a look at that and see, and I mean, there's areas that may apply, like it talks about if you have an area under an approved plan of natural landscaping, like if that's a natural landscaping thing that they have going on there.
Even if there's like an appeal process or something like that could be built in, so that, you know, if the owners of the property say, no, I'm doing this and this is why I'm doing this,
right,
then they wouldn't be in the same boat as, again, a property that is literally just derelict and
correct
in that situation.
Right. All right. Well, I'll look for that.
Okay, thank you.
Could I,
Yes, Mr. Gray?
you may want to look also at property that the front part of it is sitting on a right of way or on a actual road owned by VDOT. And it goes back a piece on some people's land that I know of, because I've talked to them about cleaning it up. So what they do is go in there and cut right in behind what is really the big problem, which is out closer to the road, and they refuse to cut it at all now, because to them, that's VDOT. Right. And the truth of the matter is, that is VDOT, and I don't know what to do with it.
The comment, this would be, I imagine would be handled, if the ordinance and everything was passed, would be handled on a complaint basis. Because, I mean, we wouldn't hire 20 people and go out there and go over this 390 square miles and say, find these complaints and things like this. But it's a complaint basis.
Complaint basis. It would just give us a vehicle to handle those complaints. And generally, you're looking at ones that are in foreclosure where the owners are vacant, they're gone, no one's maintaining the property.
That it?
That's it, yeah.
Okay, County Administrator's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things. In your agenda, I mentioned the Parks and Recreation Master Plan Survey. We have a link that's available on the county's website for folks that may be interested in participating. The Parks and Recreation Department's in the midst of developing a master plan for recreation for the county. Would encourage folks, if they can, to go onto the county's website. The link is on our homepage. Also, I don't know if it's been updated on the homepage, but the deadline for responding to that survey has been extended to October 16th. So would certainly encourage you to participating in that if you're able. Two other things I wanted to mention to you. There's a reception tomorrow evening beginning at 5 o'clock for the school superintendent in the building C next door in the school board administrative offices. That reception begins at 5 o'clock. If you're interested in dropping in and saying best wishes to Brenda, she will be here through the end of September. Also, next Monday and Tuesday, I'm going to be attending an agricultural planning meeting. It's called Planning for an Agricultural Future in Virginia at Virginia Tech. Secretary Todd Haymore, Secretary of Agriculture Haymore, is going to be there, and it's an economic development coupled with agriculture, coupled with agritourism. Looks to be a very interesting conference, and since it's at Virginia Tech, I thought I'd try to go for as much as I can, and that's next Monday and Tuesday. And other than that, that's it.
Mr. Tuck.
A few things. I stand corrected. I mentioned Charlie McGilmore lived in Plum Creek. It was in Christiansburg. So, but anyways, going to the Planning Commission, many of y'all may remember some of the questions about beekeeping that we have in residential areas. The Planning Commission has been working very diligently on that with the subcommittee and then their whole group, and working very closely with the NRV Beekeeping Association, and that should be coming before us, I believe, in a couple of weeks. But it is something that Ms. Gibson should be commended on. She has worked very diligently on that. And as I continue to see more emails and somehow she's doing this and she's doing that, and that continues to be a great addition to the county.
Thank you.
And having Ms. Gibson working for us.
Thank you. If I can just piggyback on that comment, we're working just as hard to find an HR director too. We had 2 interviews last week, and hopefully you're going to be able to continue to move forward.
Mr. Gabriel.
No report.
Mr. Creed.
No report.
Mr. King.
No report.
Ms. Biggs.
I was just going to let you all know that when we had our breakfast, it really didn't have an agenda to it because no one had put any items down. And since Virginia Tech was the host, basically we just had an update on, you know, the amount of people that went to the Brad Paisley concert and, you know, that kind of thing. It wasn't like, it really wasn't. And then, of course, the Veterans Monument. But I think that wasn't that about it? So the update was, there wasn't too much there, but so you know.
And from Dr. Wilson's report, seemed like it wasn't that many problems.
No.
With
because
people at the concert
leave
and
no
the football
Hokie
game.
behind is the thing. So they're trying encouraging the students to look out for each other. And that includes not just big events, but all the time. And I think, Bill, that's where your charging stations came in, like Blacksburg. Charging stations are so you can put your mobile phone and just charge it. And so they're thinking that especially when the kids are out late at night, they've lost their charge unless they have some kind of portable charging device. So they'd be able to go to like a restaurant or bar and just set it down and charge it. And that way, if they needed to get in contact with someone, they could.
Supervisor Perkins.
No, I think you all are aware of all of the things from the airport. But I was, we got a big update from the Ohio State game. And there were approximately 90 to 100 planes there. There was not enough room for all of the planes. Some had to be diverted to Roanoke, and in other words, they could come through and land and drop off their people, but then they had to leave and go to Roanoke, and then they could come back and pick up whoever was there. There were the airport had a large number, 80 to 90 to 100 airplanes, and 362 cars right there. So those were, that was additional funding to the airport. that we're moving along with, as you heard Dave Clark say tonight, with the bridge over the bypass, the 460 bypass. And that's all tied together with moving the Huckleberry Trail, moving the current road that goes past the airport. And so there's a great deal going on. It'll probably be a 2 or 3 year, maybe a 3-year project, if not more, to get it all completed, because it's very complicated, this process, but they are moving forward. And the airport is adding 1,000 feet to its runway, and basically so that the larger planes can come and go and can buy jet fuel. One of the things that happened was several of the large planes just simply couldn't buy fuel from us because the runway was not large enough for the plane to take off. In other words, the plane was too heavy, and so they would have to go some other place to purchase their jet fuel. And anyway, it's going to be quite a change to the Tech campus as well as to the community to have all of this finally come together. And there will be a new hangar for about 4 planes. We have a private business that is also building a hangar there, or it's a cooperative hangar between the private business and the airport. So the airport is growing, and obviously will continue to grow as Tech grows and as the community grows. That's it.
Okay. All I can say to my fellow board members, if you haven't got an opportunity to visit the new Dairy Barns down at Whitethorn, that is something to see. And
that's a result of the airport too,
right.
because the
and
new road goes right through the old
yeah,
barn.
if you just look and then you get to see the tanker truck come in with the milk, and you ask the people where the milk goes. The milk leaves there and go to Fredericksburg and to be processed. Some of it comes back here for Virginia Tech use and so forth. But it is, I think they was milking about 227 the cows when I were down there, and so it's something to see. It's amazing. It's modern. It's clean, and so forth. And that's all I have, and we are adjourned.
Somebody sees a little gold earring